My name is Benita Story. I'm also known as the Fiber Pusher. Did you know that out of over 50 varieties of cotton available in the world today, only 4 are good enough to make cotton thread from? It's true. 2 of them developed in Asia and Africa, about the same time that 2 developed in Peru and Mexico. So I think that's interesting that 2 places on different continents developed the same kind of plant, and both about the same time. Both of them about 3500 BC. So let's talk a bit more about some cotton. Let's start with the Asia side and Africa side. About 5,500 years ago, there has been evidence that thread was being spun and used in what was the Indus Valley, which is modern-day Pakistan. From there, it spread out, and in Egypt, because of the flooding of the Nile River, it was perfect conditions to grow cotton along the Nile, mostly because cotton does strip nutrients from the soil, and every year when the Nile flooded, it replaced all those nutrients. Now, even though the Egyptians wore cotton, most of the people, priests included, reserved cotton for special occasion wear, wearing linen every day. In the 5th century AD, Herodotus described it as tree wool, and how he believed that sheep grew on trees, with the tree being its umbilical cord, and it would, graze into the ground and everything, and that's where cotton came from. So I think that's very interesting that, they still thought of it as an animal. Sir John Mandeville, when he first found cotton and saw it, he also thought of it as, he called it a gourd-type plant that when it was ripened would split open and a lamb would come forth, and then you would, shear the lamb. And even the German word for cotton, Baumwoll, means tree wool. So for a long time, those people who didn't grow cotton, didn't process cotton, and didn't understand cotton still thought of it as an animal product. Now, I find that really interesting. Okay, we've discussed how in Asia, cotton started out what is modern-day Pakistan and spread down into Egypt. And so all of this here had the cotton and everything. Egypt, Pakistan, of course, what's modern-day India ended up having a ton of cotton, perfect growing conditions for it. So this is this side of the world. At the same time, about 3500 BC, cotton was also starting to be cultivated in Peru and in Mexico. So if you think about that, that's pretty much the opposite side of the world. Now, like I said, out of 50 types of cotton that grow, only 4 are usable for thread. 2 here and 2 here. And so what's really, really interesting is by 2500 BC, and they know the Peruvians, there's evidence of them, they were actually using cotton thread to make nets for fishing. And when Columbus arrived and discovered the Caribbeans, right here, he ran into some native people who spun the thread and wove fabric with it. Although they seem to not use a whole lot of it for clothing. They mostly use it for nets and that kind of thing. But when they found over here in Peru, they said the people were of a very high technology, and their fabric and their thread that they created was of very high quality, and they were very impressed with it. England is up here. And if you see, that is quite a bit farther north than what we have with Pakistan and Mexico and Peru. Now, the United Kingdom cannot grow cotton. It just doesn't have the climate for it. But they had the technology and the wherewithal to build cotton mills. Around 1607, there was some experimental cotton being grown in the United States because the climate down here is really, really conducive to growing cotton. It's pretty much on the same parallel, obviously, as where Pakistan is today. So this here, of course, not that far from Mexico. So right down in here, they started growing some cotton and everything. Tobacco in the Virginias was really big, but they started with some cotton, doing some experimenting with it. By 1640, growers were offered a cash crop here in what was the colonies of Great Britain at that time to grow cotton. And in order to deal with the increased need for labor at that point, men and women were kidnapped and sold from Africa and brought over to the Dominican Republic, to Jamaica, mostly for sugar plantations, but they were also brought to the United States to be enforced slaves to work on these cotton farms because of the intense amount of labor that was required. Not only did the crop need to be planted and cultivated, cotton doesn't all mature at the same time. And so the same fields would need to be go over and over and over again as the cotton bolls matured. So some of them in the field would mature, but the others would still be really tight, buds. And as they did it, so it was a very, very labor-intensive crop to grow here in America. And it made the southern plantation owners extremely wealthy. And then in the United States, cotton mills started being built and developed in the New England states, especially in Massachusetts. And that crop here, of course, as the United States grew, so did the cotton belt. And the cotton belt pretty much is the entire part of the United States now. And so this part here had to feed not only the cotton mills of New England, but they were still feeding the cotton mills of the United Kingdom or of England itself. And so that's a lot of cotton that was required for both of these mills. Now, the United Kingdom still brought in cotton from India and Pakistan. By this time, actually, United Kingdom had dominated India and was bringing in cotton from there. But they, for some reason, they seemed to prefer the cotton from the United States. Now, during the American Civil War, the United Kingdom was still happy to buy blockaded cotton from the United States, but because of the war, mostly in the South and everything, the supply dwindled as fields were being burned or fields were being just abandoned. And so they started bringing cotton in from Egypt and everything, so to help bring up, of course they didn't want their cotton mills to shut down. They were making too much money with this. And so unfortunately Egypt kind of overextended itself and was starting to sell cotton that wasn't even produced yet. And when the war in the United States was over with and cotton could legally be being exported back to the United Kingdom, Egypt found itself so far in debt to cotton that hadn't been, raised yet, that they'd sold, that's when the United Kingdom took over the management and the government of Egypt, because Egypt owed the United Kingdom so much money. And so, unfortunately, that made Egypt go bankrupt. Now, there are many downsides to cotton. One is the heavy use of pesticides that is required in order to grow it because of the boll weevil infestation and keeping it down pat. It also mildews when it's left wet. It loses strength when exposed to the sun for long periods of time. Silverfish love to eat it. Where we've got moths and stuff for wool and silk, silverfish love cotton. And the last downfall that I see with cotton is that it burns very easily and very rapidly. So children who wear cotton bed clothing, and if there's a fire, it's going to burn really, really quick, and it's going to catch fire really, really quickly. One of the reasons why I love wool so much is it is flame retardant and flame resistant. If you put a flame up to it, it'll burn, but as soon as you remove the flame, it stops. With cotton, it just burns, and it burns very rapidly. A couple of other things about cotton. It's stronger wet than dry. It can handle rough treatment while wet, so it's no problem with washing in the washing machine. It won't damage it. It can hold 15% of its weight in water before even starting to feel damp, and can hold 27 times its weight in water, which makes it a very strong fabric. We wash our dishes in cotton, and we wash and dry ourselves in cotton. Isn't that right, George? We sleep in cotton. Of course, we wear a lot of cotton. We really wear cotton. And did you know that U.S. currency paper currency, which is what we call it, isn't made of paper at all. Actually, it's 75% cotton, 25% linen, and out of that 75% cotton, the vast majority of it is recycled cotton. So when you see paper currency in the United States, the fabric of it is created so that any security strips that are inside the money are built into the fabric. And one of the reasons why it's made of cotton and linen is it takes the inks so well. And also, have you ever washed a dollar bill in your pocket of your jeans and it come out just like fine? That's because it's not paper, it's fabric. Try washing a piece of paper in your jeans and see what happens. Some of the really positive aspects of cotton are the fact that it measures at about 18 microns. Now, 18 microns is about the same diameter on the fiber as merino, so it's really soft. For those of you who don't know, a micron is about 1/10,000th of an inch, so that's pretty fine. And if you've ever seen on like sheets and pillowcases where it says so-and-so thread count, like a 200 thread count or 300 thread count, have you ever stopped to think about what that means? It means that there are within an inch of fabric 200 threads. Usually that means 100 warp threads and 100 weft threads. 200 thread count fabric is considered a really nice thread count on cotton. Anything higher just is obviously nicer. I actually have pillowcases that are 500 thread count, and I tell you something, they feel like satin. They are wonderfully smooth, wonderfully soft, and very nice and cool. A lot of people think of cotton as something that shrinks very easily, but it's not the cotton itself that shrinks. Cotton cannot shrink. It's the processing material that they use when they are creating the cotton from either thread or the fabric. Especially with fabric, they put a stabilizing fluid on the threads because the looms in the factories are so high speed that it strengthens the yarn or thread and keeps them from breaking while the weaving process. A lot of the fabric companies don't wash that out, and they'll actually print right over the top of that. It's called sizing. That's what it is. And it is the sizing being washed off that makes it look like it's shrinking. Like I said, the cotton itself doesn't shrink. It's just where the web of the fabric tightens up as the sizing is being washed out. And that's where you get your shrinkage. So remember, it's not actually cotton that's shrinking. It's the processing that they use on the thread and the fabric in order to make it into cloth and everything. So just remember, cotton doesn't shrink. Just how they process it does. And one of the greatest things about cotton is its ability to accept dye. You can screen print it, you can roller print it, you can stamp print it, and it takes dye so well, and it also resists fading and stuff during wash. I mean, you can wash cotton several times, and yes, it will fade somewhat. If you leave it in the sun, just like anything else, the sun will fade it. Remember also, the sun actually can damage the cotton fibers and makes it weaker. So in conclusion with cotton, it is a wonderful product. It's easier to grow. It's easier to process than like linen is and bass fibers and stuff are. It does require pesticides. It does leach the soil from nutrients that have to be put back in. It does require a lot of water, and those are some downsides to the production of cotton. Now, remember, there isn't just white cotton. There is a natural colored organic cotton series that's being brought back by Sally Fox, and I'll put a link to her website. And you can get greens and rusty reds and browns and pinks and yellows that are absolutely gorgeous. They also require less pesticides. Actually, I don't think she uses any pesticides at all because it's organic. And they're beautiful, and the colors of them actually get stronger as you wash them, which is a wonderful thing. So you can have natural colored cotton as well as you can have like natural colored wools and such. But yeah, cotton has a lot of wonderful properties. It doesn't have some downsides, like I told you. It mildews easily. It will be damaged by the sun. Silverfish like to eat it and all that kind of thing. And the environmental impact upon the soil and everything can be devastating. So keep that in mind as you're wearing your cotton. Cotton can be it's also biodegradable. So when you're done with it, you can put it on your compost pile and it will biodegrade rather than throwing it away. It also can be recycled relatively easily. Matter of fact, our currency today, it has recycled cotton in it, which I have mentioned. But so if you think about it, when you're wearing your cotton and your clothes start to become to the end of their life, there are boxes in most major cities, I know there are here in Indianapolis, that you can put your clothing in to be recycled, and that's what they will do. Rather than going to the landfill, they will recycle and turn them into other things. So we are going to be dyeing with cotton with the natural dyes, which I am really looking forward to. And the next video, I'm going to show you how to scour cotton and linen and get them ready for the mortaring process for the natural dyes. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I enjoyed doing all the research for it, and I'm really looking forward to doing some experimenting with natural dyes on cellulose fibers like the linen and the cotton. So stick with me, and let's play and experiment together. What do you say? Talk to you later. Bye.
The sponsor of this video is dyedinthewool.biz. If you're looking for breed-specific fibers, breed-specific yarns, breed study worksheets, posters, and a whole lot more, please visit us at www.dyedinthewool.biz.